How's everybody? Good? I'm going to make some apologies for the executive team there at a strategy workshop. Otherwise, they would be here, but they're not here today. But they're here in spirit, and I'm sure that they'll watch the video later on. A little teaching to start off with. So if we want to make things better at Denver Water, what's the first thing we got to learn? Do you want to phone a friend? What's the first thing we got to learn how to do? Bueller? We have to learn how to see waste, right? We do our work every day and we work around stuff, and it doesn't always leap out of us that some of the things you might be doing might not be good to do, right? So after we find it, what's the next thing we got to do? How to do less of it, right? Sometimes we can get rid of it, right? Sometimes we just make it smaller, right? So we've got two report outs this week. Today. One is on the Purchasing Maximo, and we have an update from customer sales. All right, and I'll turn it over to Jean.
Okay, come on up, team.
So this is the team for the purchasing in Maximos in O&M, T&D. So we've got all of us that work together this week. We'd like to say special thanks to these people. And we had the week with Iron Woman to help us pan out some of our discoveries. So we have Omar, who came from Iron Woman. We'd like to say thanks, special thanks to him for taking time out. Reason for action. Purchasing, we receive invoices predominantly from the vendors, which was Iron Woman, that either the Maximo wasn't on the invoices, or we were getting invalid Maximos, or there was conflict with that Maximos. So we were having to do a lot of rework, research, to look for these Maximos that were valid. So that's kind of where this came from. A lot of extra time spent. The current state. We recognized a lot of pain points as we got the group together to recognize the current state of where we were at currently. And it was great to work with this team because they were the experts in just digging in and knowing what to do with this current state. We had Maximos that were missing, wrong business units, inaccurate quantities, multiple handoffs.
Then we did a Kano diagram, which kind of describes or is the basic needs, the specified needs, and the delighter, I guess you would call it, needs. If Omar was, had it in a perfect world and wanted everything, him and Pam, what those needs might be. They're dreaming sometimes, but we did our best to get what we could there. We talked about, form and contact info, how many times we get the numbers wrong, how much rework it takes to do it, and just the basic needs and some of the specified needs that each crew had, or each person. Then we went to the current state. In pictures, we did a map of a broken bridge. The process is confusing, it's lengthy, there's way too many handoffs. Part of our problem is when the crew gets the number, they might superimpose some numbers, which throws the entire process off, and billing that should go on the T&D account numbers might end up at a treatment plant or SOS or somewhere it doesn't belong, which causes a lot of rework for Pam and I and Susanna in a lot of cases.
All right, so now we went to our target state. And our target state was to have correct invoices, a streamlined process, a one-stop shop, budgeting is improved, and data can be analyzed, and no paperwork. So after we went to our gap analysis, we grouped all the barriers together, all the similar problems together, and identified all the issues that we were facing.
Then we had to identify the solutions, which is basically taking from the fishbone and turning them into problem statements, and how do we get there, why, and then getting to our root cause. From our new process, we actually streamlined a couple things. So from the Maximo number, when it's received in Central Dispatch after Emergency Services goes out and verifies the leak, Central Dispatch will then send off a communication to not only all of the T&D foremen, but we will also get all of their crew online. So, so the crew can go to the warehouse, already have the number with them, and then it'll also go to our business partners. So Omar will get it at the same time that we do, so there's not any transposing of numbers, that sort of thing too. It's all one number at one time. Bam! And then and then we also added countermeasures as well, because for some reason on the T&D daily lineup, it wasn't, the numbers were also getting transposed. I don't know how that happened. So we're going to verify that one as well. So we're going to verify those as well and just make sure that those are all streamlined as well, so we don't have the problems with warehouse and that sort of thing. We're also going to conduct training with all of the foremen, all of the leadmen, anybody who actually would be touching Enfield or Maximo, in order to be able to make sure that they know exactly how it affects Maximo, the asset, and the business unit, and what they, so they can understand how that affects us. And the last thing is that we eliminated the material issues tickets, which were small, tiny receipts that I'm sure every single foreman before were keeping track of and not getting rid of or throwing away or losing. And so, but just to make it easier on them, we have eliminated those altogether and replaced it with a spreadsheet. So we'll actually have a list and business units and Maximos that way as well.
This slide has the examples of the text message and emails that's going to be sent out to business partners and foremen and crew. On the right, you have the email example. On the left, you have the text messages with the Maximo numbers. Then when the crew's on site with the business partners, they will verify if the business partner has the correct Maximo number along with the foreman Maximo number to eliminate the confusion.
Okay, so Raylani had mentioned these tiny tickets. You can see a picture of it there. So these multiple tiny cash receipts are given every time aggregate is issued to the crews. So the foremen over time collect these receipts and get them to the warehouse. However, they are hard to read, and if you can see that picture, there's actually a Maximo work order number written on the back of it. So, you know, sometimes it's written, sometimes it's not written, and sometimes they don't make it down to the warehouse, which is causing inaccurate inventory levels. So in order to resolve that issue, we're trying to eliminate those cash register receipts. So one document is going to be provided electronically via email to the warehouse, and that's going to be done daily. This will eliminate the foreman from having to collect and deliver the receipts to the warehouse. And because the electronic document will have the Maximo work order number, it kind of eliminates that guesswork, you know, so they'll have it. Inventory should be more accurate because it'll be reconciled to the Maximo work order. Okay, what we see here are two charts, a trend chart in the upper left-hand corner and a Pareto chart in the lower right-hand corner. So here we're measuring invoice accuracy weekly to continue improvement activities. In the trend chart, the upper left, you'll see the variability, you know, over time as they're tracking. But the main idea here is that we're going to see this trend go up to 100%, so you see an upward trend there. In the Pareto chart, the lower left, that's basically tracking defects. Again, we're still tracking accuracy, but they're defects, like no Maximo work orders written on the spoils tickets or no Maximo work orders written on the hauling ticket. And the idea here is that we're trying to reduce defects so there's a downward trend.
So when we filled out the A3 to start this whole event process, we thought that our defects, our accuracy was about 80%. When we tracked it for about a month, we realized it was really at 73%. So we really do have a lot of room for improvement. So that, like Ernest said, we'll be tracking that one. From the previous slide, that's the accuracy of the invoices. We'll be tracking that weekly, and we'll be posting it outside purchasing. We'll have our process control board out there so that people will be able to see it. And I even believe Mike and Sam are probably going to attend our purchasing stand-ups every Tuesday so that we can talk. If there's any issues, we can review what's going on. At 30 days, we expect to be at 80% because obviously during this week, there's still the inaccurate, the current process, not the new process to help us improve. 60 days, about 90%, and hopefully at 90 days, we'll be reporting that we're at 100%. So in following that, the days to process invoice and the number of handoffs will also go down as we improve our process with the accuracy of the invoices. And then we still have some work to do. When Mike and Randy went out a few days ago to review the new process with the foreman, there was a few that were either on call and weren't working that day, or they're on vacation, so they're going to do that on Monday and wrap that up. As Raylani talked about, there's some training that she's going to do this next week to educate the foreman and the lead men. And then Omar, the spreadsheet that Ernest had talked about, is going to come from Omar's system. They're going to export it into Excel, send it to the warehouse every day so we can have more accurate inventory. Those teeny tiny tickets, I mean, you saw the screen, they look really big. They're actually only about 1.5 inches. So they have to write the maximum number on there, they get lost. Heath from the warehouse said there was sometimes they didn't get those tickets for about 2 months. So our inventory was not accurate in a timely fashion. And so some of our insights, I think a small change as far as including the business partner and some of other people is a small change that can have a big impact, but Mike also said that one wrong number can stop the whole process because then Pam and Susanna can't pay anything if one number on the Maximo is incorrect. We feel that we're moving in the right direction. Mike's excited for no more Pamograms when stuff's wrong. And our takeaways are just to be more accurate with the paperwork. That's why we're going to have, Omar's people will have the number, our people will have the number, and every time they have to do a handoff, they're reviewing that number to make sure that it's right. Any questions or comments? Oh, one.
The feedback from IT regarding getting that Maximo number back to send it out to you guys, because there's some delays in that.
We really didn't need IT. We needed the ES guys to get the maximum number out sooner. That's pretty much all.
Okay, because we actually had issues with getting the number last night.
Yeah.
Actually getting it back out to you guys, and that happens occasionally. So I don't know how much of an issue that is for you guys.
So I don't know if there was a glitch last night or what we had, but I think it's just something we're going to have to work out as we move forward.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
So, and then as far as I go to Joel and his team and Joe Duran's group, we're going to try and get us, it used to be that the emergency services, like on that big leak you guys saw on TV last night, emergency services would have to show up to the leak, get it shut off before we could get our number to call our vendors and our business partners. We made it now so that when they show up out there and it's obvious that the street's gone, that it is a leak, they can go ahead and generate that maximum number then, which I think was what Andrew was talking about, that they didn't get that right away. I don't know if that was a glitch in the system or what we had, but so it's not a maximum one, I guess. But we'll work on that. Which the sooner we can get the maximum number from emergency service, the sooner all of our paperwork and all of our vendors get the correct number and less chance for errors. Patty?
So there were several times when it said that it resulted in inaccurate inventory, but the new warehouse will know what it's got and what it doesn't, right? May not know where it went, but it knows what it's got.
That's the idea. They weren't getting the tickets quickly enough, so it was delaying the accuracy of the inventory. Even though it's off-site at Omar's location right now, it's still considered stock or traffic.
Okay. I mean, I just was thinking with the new warehouse, wouldn't, if you go get something from the warehouse knows you got it, doesn't it?
Yeah, the
Omar
aggregates
has-
are going to stay off-site. They're
Yeah,
not coming
Omar-
on here after the OCR is finished.
Iron Woman holds all our aggregates, Patty, so it's actually not off-site. That's why we kind of have to reconcile between Omar site and Denver Water. So that's why the tickets, and we just have to verify how much Omar has in stock, how much Omar needs to reorder, and make sure everything balances. So that's why the tickets aren't coming back. That's why we went to that spreadsheet format. Hopefully we can keep better track of what we have. Sir?
After a maximum number is assigned, have we made it easy as possible for people to find what it is?
Hopefully, this process will make it easier. The more people we can give it to right up front, so they know what the proper number is, the easier it is. The problem we had in the past was one person got the maximo, which was the foreman, and then he had to disseminate out to everyone else, which led to, instead of writing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, he wrote 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That's where a lot of the errors were. And even if you superimpose one number, it throws the whole thing off. So we thought the more people we give it to correctly the first time, the less chance for error.
Should it be searchable? Should people be able to find it some other way than having it passed down?
That was the purpose of the text message and the email. So hopefully that helps too. And we have an email list out there, so most of the crew members will get the maximum number over their phone. So the more people that have the correct number, hopefully less chance for errors on the backside. Joel?
Yeah, Mike, I take it you're tracking in labor on that same maximums along with the materials. Is that the goal?
Yeah, our labor's tracked on the same Maximo that goes out. Just like ES tracks, that's why they have two numbers. ES goes out, they shut it down, they're tracking on their Maximo. When we get ours generated, all time and materials is tracked on that. Cool.
Yay. Thank you.
Thanks.
And we're going to switch again. There we go. So the scope of the event was to look at our full process from start to finish, how we receive taps, how we process taps, how we communicate with the customer. Before, every tap rep had their own developer they worked with. If that tap rep went on vacation, all of those taps sat until the person came back from vacation, and developers would be calling saying, "Where's my tap? Why haven't you processed it?" Well, we couldn't get to it because it was locked up into that person's computer. So the group totally changed the full process. So now we do a first in, first out process. Our service level initially was at a 27%. We're targeting 90. We're about at a 40% now. We didn't have standard work before. Every tap rep kind of processed their own way. We have rewritten all of our SOPs. We're getting them finally cleaned up, and we are all doing the same common work now. Rework, we were retouching each application at least 5 to 6 times, which in the course of all of it, we had 26, you could have 26 retouches on a tap before it actually got processed. So we've cut that. We're trying to get that down to 13. We're about 20 now. Our quality score was at 36 because we were trying to rush through, get things done. We were missing things on applications. Our CCMB records were inaccurate. By doing this new process, we're shooting for 85. We're already at a 70 just by the restructure. So that's been great. Our lead time, it was taking us about 20 days per application. It's really, we should actually be at 3 days. We are now down to 14 days, so we're getting there. Some of the things that we have still in process, we're still cleaning up our website. Noel's been working great on some of the changes. We made changes, and then all of a sudden we found out that the whole website changed, so now we're going to go back through and kind of tweak what was already changed, so we're working on that. We've educated our co-workers at BST and customer care. They're on board. We're getting fewer transfers. Our communications all been put out. I want to thank everybody. One of the big things that was bogging us down was the constant interruptions from our external customers from inside our company. So they'd come in and say, I've got this problem. Our tap rep would have to stop work and solve their problem and then try to pick up where they left off. We have new processes in place now where there's a stop sign that says, oh, before you proceed, you must have your question evaluated for priority. So they get to come see me, and I get to say, take a number, we'll see you next week when we can get to that. So, which has really been nice. So it's really cut down on the confusion inside our bullpen. IT has done awesome. We actually got laptops this week. They're all installed. I really thought this would be another month out, but they were able to change their scheduling on deployment and get us some ones that they had taken back from another group, cleaned them up, and got them all implemented. Last one when it was installed yesterday. So we're still developing SOPs, and I'm hoping by 60 days we should have a better report out on what our progress is. This is kind of our schedule attainment. You can kind of see this is our Pareto of showing where we're at every day. So every day I get to go through the log and I schedule the amount of work to be completed that day for each of the reps. So you can see there's been some low points where we're down around 20%, and then there's some days that we're way up over 100%. And it really depends on the confusion that's impacting that group. So we're kind of coming up this month. We're kind of leveling off. We dropped down to 40% around the beginning of the month, but now we're back up around 75. So there's a lot of that. Distractions are coming out. What also plays into the fact that we have a lot of vacation time through our group. So when you only have 4 people doing the process and you've got 2 of them every week scheduled on a vacation, it kind of changes your outcome. So we've been kind of working through those hurdles, but I think we're on a better path going forward. What we have found is that the new process does work. It has stopped a lot of our rework. Customers are getting on board. They like that, having the one go-to person. Now they're put in a queue and we pull them up through the queue, and they kind of miss having the ability to call and say, hey, Jill, I got 5 taps I'm sending you. Can you get them back to me tomorrow? So it's actually now a first in, first out, which they're getting used to. They do like the quicker turnaround, but they still would like that point of contact. So we're going to figure that out. Some of the other things that are great, new laptops have been awesome. We don't have to depend on the lobby. We can take our laptops. They can work from wherever they're at. They're not plugged into their desk, so if they need some individual quiet space, they can go into a cubicle, take their laptop, and continue working. So the other great thing about it is the work is spread more evenly through all the employees now. Before, one developer could have 100 taps and the other developer could have 10. Well, this one person is struggling trying to get through his 100 taps. The other one's having donuts in the lounge because they've got their 10 taps done. So now the work is really evenly spread out. Some of the things that we still got to try to get to is research on some of these taps is still taking quite a bit of time. We're going to try to look at ways to streamline that and make it less of an impact. We do have a lot of meetings that we're still involved in that we're going to try to reorganize our schedule to try to meet. And one of the biggest things is still trying to understand this new process. So we're still working through a learning curve, where these emails should go, how should we process, if it comes in this way, what do we do? So we're still trying to figure that out, that I hope in the 60-day report out we'll have more of a handle on. And that's what I got. Questions? Patty. Mm-hmm. Right. Sure. So part of the problem, like in the old days, you had a house on a lot, it was a tap. You know, if your house fronts a main, you can have a tap. You sold the tap. You didn't have to do any research at all. You look at the map and say, yes, there's your house. Yes, you can have a tap. You're good to go. Now we have properties, what we call dense development, that you may have the one house that was there that they've scraped off, and now they've put up 6 triplexes or 6 row homes, or they've done a quad court on the same little itty bitty lot, and they want individual taps to all the residents on that lot. So now you have to look at, okay, well, look at how the lot's configured, how the building's configured, how can I get a tap to the back unit? You know, there's alleys on both sides, you're landlocked, so there's a lot of things that we now have to take into account. Not only that, you've got, it used to be 1 tap per structure. Now with the manifolds and the dense development, and the developers are wanting individual taps for all these structures, well, how do you get 6 taps individually into, you know, each set of row homes? So you could have 3 complexes of 6 units. Well, you have 18 taps to get within a 50-foot area. So that's what brought up the manifold, and some people, a lot of developers still like individual taps. So we have to now do research not only on location and sizing, but even feasibility, if it's even possible. So we're working more with developers. We're working more with the city now on reviewing these site plans when they come in, so that we can actually get something configured before they actually start their building process with the city that says this is what you can do. So it's been a big change, and what used to take 10 minutes to sell now takes about almost an hour just to research before we can even make the recommendation. And it's been heavily hit on our tap group, because they get out there and say, wow, I got 18 taps and it's all on this one little lot, you know, are we really doing this? And it's like, yep, here we go, you know. So it's been interesting, and it's for our people, especially in that group. They've had to learn now to read plans, and they've had to learn how to read the city site development plans. They've had to learn how to read the EMAP system, the tapping requirements. So it's broadened their job quite a bit. So it's not just sell it and go. You've got to do all your legwork, because if you mess up and the field crews get out there, they're at a standstill because they don't know what to do. So, Brian, yes. Yeah, yes, and we did create that also. We gave all of our field crews a Batman number or bat line that they can call in for emergency quick answers that our bullpen will answer. Anything external, we now have a full staff lobby person that handles all external calls. Any kind of questions, you're directed out to the lobby, and our bullpen only handles emergency field calls now. So. All right. Thank you.